It starts with a whisper. I've just moved into an old Victorian house on the outskirts of Ashwood, a town cloaked in fog and whispered superstitions. The locals call it the Hensley Estate, named after its original occupants, and they speak of it only in hushed tones. According to town lore, the Hensleys vanished one night in 1912, leaving behind only a house filled with shadows and murmurs. The house, with its sagging roof and ivy-clad walls, seems pulled from the pages of a Gothic novel. Its charm undeniable, its history, a tapestry of mystery and silence. As I unpack my last box, the whispers brush against my ears, soft and fleeting like the touch of a ghost. I pause, a shiver crawling up my spine. The house is supposed to be empty, save for me. Hello? I call out, my voice echoing off the high ceilings. No answer, just the house responding with the gentle creak of aging wood. I tell myself it's just the wind, or the old structure settling, yet the air feels charged, as if responding to my presence. That night, as I try to sleep, the whispers return. They aren't words, but a presence, like a breath on the nape of my neck. I flick on the bedside lamp, and its light casts long shadows across the room, shadows that seem too deep, too dark. That's when I notice the portrait on the wall. A woman, her gaze intense and penetrating, as though she's trying to communicate. Her eyes seem to follow me, filled with a desperate urgency. Compelled to discover more about this spectral inhabitant, I explore the house under the cloak of night. My footsteps sound unnaturally loud as I tread the hallway to the library, a room thick with the scent of old books and secrets. The whispers grow louder, now a cacophony of urgent voices that seem to seep from the very walls. The library is a cavernous room with shelves laden with dusty tomes and faded manuscripts. The whispers crescendo as I approach a particularly ancient bookshelf. Heart racing, I extend a hand and touch a leather-bound volume. The moment my fingers brush the spine, silence falls heavy around me. The book in my hands feels alive, its cover warm. It's a diary, belonging to Elizabeth Hensley, the last mistress of the house. The entries are scrawled in a frantic, looping script, speaking of a presence she felt watching her, haunting her steps, whispering from the walls. As I read, the temperature drops, the air around me tightening like a noose. The door slams shut on its own, and I am plunged into darkness, the only light emanating from the faint glow of my cell phone. Find me, a voice whispers, clear and chillingly close. The floor shakes, the shelves tremor, and books cascade around me in a storm of paper and dust. Dropping the diary, I fumble for the door, but it's immovable, sealed shut. The house seems to be holding its breath, waiting for my next move. With no way out, I turn back to the diary, compelled to read on. Each entry reveals more of the house's sinister past, drawing me deeper into its heart. As dawn breaks, the door suddenly swings open, as if whatever held it shut has now retreated with the shadows of the night. Exhausted yet determined, I know I cannot leave this mystery unsolved. The house has chosen me to uncover its secrets, and I cannot escape its grasp. Echoes of the past. The sun pierces through the grimy windows, casting long, thin shadows across the library's chaos of scattered books and papers. The night's terror lingers in the air, a stark contrast to the morning's deceptive calm. I feel the weight of countless eyes upon me as I pick up Elizabeth Hensley's diary from the floor, its pages now a jumbled mess. The diary had become my beacon in the darkness, each entry a whisper from the past beckoning me deeper into the mystery of the Hensley estate. Today, I begin where I left off, Elizabeth's words painting a picture of her life entwined with something unseen, something that had begun to seep into every corner of her existence. July 18, 1910. The presence in the house grows bolder by the day. Last night, I heard it speak my name. The voice was neither male nor female, but something else, something ancient. I fear it may want more from me than just my attention. As I read, the whispers return, soft and mournful, a stark reminder that I am not alone. I can't tell if they're echoes of the past or cries of the present, blurring the line between then and now. Driven by a mix of fear and fascination, I continue to explore the house, armed with the diary as my guide. Elizabeth's entries lead me to the attic, a place she wrote about with dread, claiming it as the heart of the haunting. The attic is stifling, the air thick with the smell of mothballs and mildew. As I ascend the creaky ladder, a sense of foreboding settles over me. Sunlight filters through the cracks in the ceiling, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. The attic is filled with old furniture covered in white sheets, like ghosts waiting in silence. I wander among these spectral shapes, my flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. That's when I see it, a large trunk, its wood darkened by age and the brass fittings tarnished. Elizabeth's diary mentioned a trunk where she kept her most precious possessions, hoping to hide them from whatever haunted her. With trembling hands, I open the trunk. Inside, I find an assortment of objects, a dried bouquet of roses, a small painting of the house, and a lock of hair tied with a ribbon. But beneath these, there's a smaller, leather-bound book, much older than the diary. It seems to pulse with a life of its own as I touch it. This second book is written in a language I don't recognize, its letters twisting and turning on the page like living things. As I flip through the pages, the air around me grows colder, and the whispers crescendo into a desperate wail. The house trembles, and for a moment, I am frozen with fear. The wailing stops as abruptly as it began, leaving only the sound of my rapid breathing. I take the book and hurry down the ladder, the feeling of being watched stronger than ever. Back in the safety of the library, I examine the mysterious book. It's clear that this is what the entity had wanted me to find. Elizabeth's final entries hinted at a ritual, a last desperate attempt to contact or perhaps banish the presence. This book must contain the key. Rituals and Revelations. The old clock in the hallway strikes midnight, its chime echoing through the silent house as if marking the beginning of something ominous. I'm sitting at the desk in the library, the ancient book and Elizabeth's diary open in front of me. The weight of what I might discover presses heavily on my mind. I've managed to contact an expert in ancient languages, Dr. Helena Marris, a professor of antiquities who specializes in esoteric texts. After explaining my situation and the unusual phenomena at the Hensley Estate, she agreed to visit and help me decipher the book. The promise of uncovering something truly supernatural was too tempting for her to resist. Dr. Marris arrives early in the morning, her curiosity palpable. She's brought along her tools, magnifying glasses, notebooks, and a small digital scanner. "Let's see what secrets your ghostly friends have been keeping," she says with a wry smile, trying to lighten the mood. We spend hours poring over the book. Dr. Marris explains that it appears to be a grimoire, a spellbook used in ancient rituals. It's not just any grimoire, she points out. This one seems to focus on contacting spirits, possibly even controlling or banishing them. It's incredibly rare. The language, she reveals, is a mix of Latin and an older, forgotten dialect. As she translates, I jot down notes, my mind racing with the implications. Could Elizabeth have tried one of these rituals? Is that why the presence in the house seems so powerful, so angry? May 15, 1912. In my desperation, I have turned to the grimoire hidden by my ancestors in the attic. Tonight, I will perform the ritual it describes to banish the presence that torments us. If you are reading this, and I am no more, know that I failed, and it still waits in the darkness. This is it, Dr. Marris says, her voice tense. The ritual Elizabeth mentioned. It's complex, and not without risks. It calls for specific conditions and components, moonlight, complete silence, and a personal item of the haunted. As dusk approaches, we decide to attempt the ritual. Despite the danger, the need to end the haunting, and perhaps to help whatever spirits are trapped here, drives us forward. We gather everything required, a silver candlestick from the trunk, a lock of Elizabeth's hair, and the grimoire. We set up in the attic, the site of the original ritual. The attic feels charged, the air thick with anticipation. Dr. Marris instructs me to light the candle while she begins reciting the incantations. As she speaks, the words seem to resonate, vibrating through the floorboards and into the very bones of the house. Midway through the ritual, a chill fills the air, and the candle flickers wildly, despite there being no breeze. Shadows dance along the walls, coalescing into the shape of a woman, the woman from the portrait, I realize with a start. Elizabeth's spirit appears tormented, her expression one of profound sorrow and fear. Dr. Marris continues, her voice steady but her hands trembling. The shadows grow more intense, swirling around Elizabeth's figure. Then, with a final, resonant command, a flash of light fills the room, and the shadows are sucked into the grimoire, which slams shut with a sound like thunder. Silence descends, heavy and absolute. The oppressive feeling that permeated the house lifts, as if a great weight has been removed from the air itself. Aftermath and answers. The morning after the ritual is eerily silent. As I walk through the house, the usual creaks and groans of the old structure seem subdued, as if the building itself is holding its breath. The sunlight streaming through the windows feels warmer, less shadowed than before. Yet, there is a palpable sense of something unresolved, a story half told. Dr. Marris and I convene in the kitchen over strong coffee, the grimoire lying closed between us on the table. We should examine the house today, she suggests. See if anything has changed, and perhaps understand more about the Hensley family's history with these spirits. As we tour the estate, it becomes apparent that the atmosphere has shifted. Rooms that once felt oppressive and now seem merely sad, draped in the melancholy of a bygone era. We make our way to the attic again. The trunk that held the grimoire and Elizabeth's personal items now appears just an ordinary piece of furniture, devoid of the ominous aura it once had. However, the portrait of Elizabeth, which had always drawn my attention, now reveals something new. Behind it, we discover a hidden compartment in the wall containing letters and photographs. These documents paint a picture of Elizabeth as more than just a haunted mistress of a cursed estate, they show her as a scholar, a seeker of knowledge about the paranormal. We underestimated her, Dr. Marris muses, flipping through the letters. She wasn't just a victim, she was trying to solve this, much like us. One letter, in particular, catches our eye. It's from a fellow paranormal researcher, dated just a few weeks before Elizabeth's disappearance. The letter warns her of the dangers of delving too deep, of attracting the attention of something that cannot be controlled. It seems Elizabeth ignored this warning, to her peril. Armed with this new understanding, we return to the library, where I decide to delve deeper into the other books we found in the attic. Perhaps there are more clues about how to permanently ensure the spirits are at peace, or maybe even help them move on. As I read, I find references to rituals similar to the one we performed, but with additional steps that weren't completed, steps that might finalize the spirit's release. Dr. Marris agrees that it might be worth trying these additional steps, but cautions we should prepare more thoroughly this time. We need to understand exactly what each step entails, she insists. We can't risk worsening the situation. The next few days are spent in preparation. We gather the necessary materials, painstakingly recreate the rituals as described, and monitor the house for any signs of spiritual activity. The air grows heavy with the scent of herbs and old pages as we chant incantations that date back centuries. Finally, under a new moon, we perform the ritual. This time, the atmosphere in the house shifts perceptibly. There's a moment of intense pressure, as if the air itself is being squeezed, and then a release, like a sigh. When it's done, the house feels truly empty for the first time. The oppressive, watchful sensation is gone. We've done it, we've freed the spirits that Elizabeth had tried to help so long ago. Echoes silenced, lessons learned. The Hensley estate feels different now, it's as if the very walls have exhaled a century's worth of pent-up breaths. The air is lighter, the sun's rays pierce through the old glass windows with an almost celebratory glow. Yet, walking through the corridors, which no longer whisper of hidden dread, I am acutely aware of the history that these walls have witnessed. Dr. Marris and I sit in the once foreboding library, now just a quiet, dusty room filled with books. Our conversation turns reflective as we discuss our journey through the mysteries of the estate. We've uncovered a narrative that was lost to time, Dr. Marris notes, her eyes scanning the rows of ancient texts. Elizabeth Hensley was not just battling her own demons, she was fighting for understanding, trying to control something that was beyond the knowledge of her time. Indeed, our exploration has revealed much about the courage and intellectual curiosity of a woman who was dismissed by her contemporaries as merely another eccentric heiress. Through her letters and the rituals she attempted, Elizabeth emerges as a pioneer, someone who might have been a noted scholar of the paranormal had she been born in a different era. But what do we take away from all this? I ask, genuinely curious about Dr. Marris's perspective, which has been shaped by years of studying the supernatural. Respect, she replies simply. Respect for the forces we don't understand, and respect for the people who endure them. Also, a reminder that our exploration of the supernatural isn't just about thrill-seeking, it's about understanding the boundaries between worlds. As we prepare to leave the estate, I feel a sense of closure but also a deep, abiding fascination with the unknown. The podcast episodes we've recorded here, recounting each step of our investigation and the historical unraveling of Elizabeth's story, have sparked a significant interest among listeners. Many express a newfound appreciation for the nuances of ghost stories, which often stem from real human fears and desires. In our final episode from the Hensley Estate, we invite a historian to provide context about the era Elizabeth lived in and a psychologist to discuss the impact of such hauntings on the human psyche. Their insights add layers to our narrative, turning it from a simple ghost story into a multifaceted exploration of human nature and supernatural belief. As we conclude, I reflect on the lessons learned, the importance of historical context in understanding the supernatural, the value of persistence in seeking answers, and the profound impact of respecting the stories of those who lived before us. Final thoughts on Supernatural Presence Unveiled. As we leave the Hensley Estate behind, the stories we've told linger in the minds of our listeners. We've not only uncovered the truth behind a haunting but also connected deeply with the human elements of fear, curiosity, and the desire for knowledge. The estate is quiet now, its echoes silenced, but the stories will continue to resonate. Thank you for joining us on this journey through shadows and time. Stay curious, and remember, the most haunting stories are often the most human. And with that, dear listeners, we close the book on the Hensley Estate, but keep your ears open, there are always more stories waiting to be told.